new path, people. For some reason I've never walked on this top path in my garden, and it is stunning. I'm just taking in the best of England, the best of English nature. My last few days in the UK. Oh, what a wonderful land this is. Look at this. Look at how it's all just decorated on the floor. Oh, I do love May, and I do love England, but I'm also quite looking forward to leaving. I'm gonna miss this one though. Actually, if I'm honest, I won't. I'll be experiencing, I'll be present, I'll be in the moment. But I know she's gonna miss me, and that brings a great deal of sadness. Oh, it smells so good. I think this is the best flower I've smelt in these gardens. Oh, the English rose. Wow. When you think it's coming to an end and the flowers are starting to die off, a new flower is like, no, it's my time! And it's Mr. Poppy Seed's time now. Aren't you beautiful? Wow. It's not quite opened yet. Ooh, can we take the top off? Oh, look at that! The beautiful opening! Wow, how good was that? I think that was my best ever YouTube moment. Look at the colours inside. Wow, what does this smell like? Oh, wow, that's amazing. Oh, gosh. Honestly, I think that's so healing. Like, I don't have an explanation for it. It's just vibration. And, you know, it's beyond words, but I can just sense the healing vibes when I smell these flowers. And, you know, and it's all linked to the slowing down and the presence and the just appreciation for the beauty all around us. Particularly like this tree ahead. Yellow, the white and orange is fantastic. Anyway, enough about trees. Let's try and talk about something a bit more interesting, but I'm sure many of you will think this is interesting like I do. Look at the bright green on that. It's like supernatural. It's amazing because I used to have this appreciation, this connection, this peace when I was on plant medicine. That was the only time I could ever be slow enough and present enough to appreciate nature like I do now. And it's like this slow integration as you do the work, as you release from the robot, the control, the need to control your life, the ego essentially. And yes, I still have an ego, I acknowledge that, but there's a great detachment. I'm no longer in it. You know, it's a part of me, and it's a part of me that can still take control, obviously, from the shadow without me realising it. But that's pretty rare now. You know, it's when I do allow the ego to be in charge, you know, it's coming from a place of awareness, a place of observation. I think it's really interesting how these peak moments we have on the spiritual journey, i.e. plant medicine, and what I'm actually talking to. And what I'm actually speaking into isn't the plant medicine, it's the space it allows you to find within yourself. You know, all these things are just tools. But yeah, it's really quite a profound moment when you see those experiences and that version of yourself, more importantly, that you met with the medicine integrating into your everyday life. It only happens, like anything with experience, by working the muscle. Now, I've been dedicated to this work for 10 years now. And of course, along the way, there's been many breakthroughs, breakdowns, breakthroughs. And there's been many moments of like, whoa, this is so beneficial, you know, I'm so different. But I really feel like it's setting in now. I really feel like all the work I've done over the last 10 years is really paying off. And there's just this peace and presence and acceptance, and joy is too strong. Yeah, peace is the way to define it. It's really starting to get integrated from what I used to see as all the different modalities I've done, all these spiritual, you know, from vision quest, plant medicine, men's work, family constellations, breath work, I mean just thousands, not thousands, hundreds of different techniques. But it's not about the techniques, is what I'm realizing now. It's It's just about surrender. The techniques allow you a new perspective. But then what people refer to as integration, you know, really it's just surrender. It's surrendering to what you've been shown. And by surrendering, I mean allowing those egoic parts of you, those fleshy parts of you, to, well, slowly die off. But it's not really die off, it's to be seen and be loved, and therefore get a lot quieter. You know, they're no longer needing to run the show. And essentially, they basically are all traumaed inner child parts of us. And when that trauma is unresolved and the resulting emotion isn't properly felt and allowed to flow, emotion, energy in motion, then it gets stagnant, and it's what we call a kink often in some worlds. And that's where we operate from. That's where our whole psyche comes from when we're not aware of it. It's like the phrase dirty old man. Why do so many men become dirty when they're old? It's because they've spent their whole life suppressing their thoughts and emotions, and then they start to leak out. It's the opposite of what I'm talking about. Oh, shall we talk about comments again? Don't worry, I'm over it. I just want to clarify. I think until you've been a YouTuber that makes daily content, and that content is based on sharing your present moment so everyone can see your journey, they can see the shadow, they can see the gold, they can see the triggers. Now that's what I'm doing. I'm not sharing from this shiny, spiritual, polished place. I'm sharing the grittiness of the journey. So yesterday's video, so I've done a few videos recently saying that I'm triggered by comments. And it is true, I don't say anything that's not true. But obviously, I don't think it's exaggerated in the video, but certainly on the thumbnail. Yesterday I released a thumbnail that looked something like this. Angry rant at twat or something like that. And I think I've been really happy with the comments, don't get me wrong, and I totally understand where this misunderstanding, projection comes from. But I've had a few comments. This isn't me having a go, it's just me explaining. I've had a few comments saying, you're obviously very wise. Why do you let these comments trigger you so much? They don't. Really, they don't. There's an awareness of a mild trigger. There's the present part of me that can see the parts of me that are getting triggered. I don't really get pulled into the trigger anymore. There was, the video I released yesterday was actually the first one I recorded about comments. And that one had triggered me to the point where it was in my mind. And it wasn't dominating me, there was no anger, but there was an awareness that I keep thinking about this comment. So I spoke into it. And by speaking into it, obviously many people would do that with a friend or a therapist. I choose you guys. And the reason I do that is because it makes this journey so much more powerful. It makes this shadow work journey so much more powerful. Because ultimately, it's all about taking responsibility. And it's all about accountability. And what stronger way is there of making yourself accountable by putting it all online for people to see? And again, most people coming from an egoic place will be like, well, if I'm putting it online for everyone to see, it must be shiny and perfect and polished. But no, the power in the accountability is sharing my rawness, where I'm at every moment, receiving the reflections, most of which are projections, but some are very wise reflections which I take in. But it's it forces you into responsibility. It forces you into taking ownership of your stuff, because it's the most powerful mirror work you can do. Literally thousands of people, and it's not even really about the responses, a few of them help. It's more about the vulnerable. I really need to learn to say that word, seeing as it's the main word I use. The vulnerability. I'm having a spazzy morning, bear with me guys. You know what I'm trying to say. Of doing that, of the exposure, of the putting yourself on the internet. You know, that deep vulnerability that makes you feel, that makes you be very aware of everything you're doing. And if you're not aware of something, which obviously there's things I'm not aware of, they soon become apparent. There's a big difference between being triggered, being in the trigger. We speak about emotion, thought and action, coping mechanism, escape, being one thing for many people. They're not separated. But once you learn to separate those things and become very experienced in that awareness, you get to a point where you can notice triggers, you can speak into those triggers, you can feel those triggers, but you're not necessarily gripped by them. And of course, there's still some things that will trigger me to the point of being gripped. For example, when YouTube demonetized my channel for what turned out to be a week, but at first it was, is this it? You know, that brought up a fear in me. And that wasn't just from an awareness point of view, that was like a, ugh! You know, it had gripped me. I hadn't done enough self-work around fear, ultimately around trusting the universe to always provide for me. So that fear came up as real. And the only way I could deal with it was by, you know, smoking some ganja, you know, avoiding it with a coping mechanism. But the comments don't do that. With the comments, it's just an awareness of a mild trigger. And I choose to speak into that. One, to help myself, as I've just explained, this is my therapy session. But also to help others. There's a great permission that's given in vulnerability. What is going on today? You know, when you are vulnerable and authentic, it will do one of two things for people. It will either trigger the hell out of them because they're seeing everything that they're not. That's 90% of people. Or it will give them permission to do the same. And that's 10% of people. And they're the ones I'm here for. They're the reason I'm doing this. As well, of course, is earning a living. Wendy, thank you so much for your recent very generous donation. Really touched by that and your words. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a big... I mean, what I'm doing is actually quite foolhardy. I am earning enough money now off YouTube and the donations to survive in South America. But it could get taken at any moment, as I experienced only 2 weeks ago. And it's so bizarre. So it's my other channel was monetized. This one, I'm 3/4 of the way to hitting the targets on this one. So I think within a week, this one too will be monetized. And I'm expecting a higher pay rate on this channel. It's mad, my other channel. So I just did a video on the Liverpool nonsense, the awful thing that's happened in Liverpool. 33,000 views. What was it? $8, I think, something like that, $6 maybe. Basically, it works out at 30 cents every 1,000 views. But then I do a video in Sheffield City Centre, and that's $4 per 1,000 views. So it's all based on how controversial they deem the video to be, basically, and whether advertisers want to advertise on it. So I'm thinking this channel should have a pay rate of like $5 or $6 per 1,000 views. Anyway, I don't know why I'm speaking into that. Yeah, what I was actually wanting to speak into was this trusting, this knowing that what I'm doing is what God wants me to do. You know, it's led by God. Now, of course, that could be my ego skewing things, and I could be demonically possessed, and it's actually some demon. Yeah, of course, all that's possible. I don't speak into anything with certainty. I just speak into it with my latest experience on life and the conclusions I have come to. But the reason, if you see any wisdom in me, the reason it's there is because I don't claim to know anything. I don't tell myself a story of knowing. You know, I come from a perspective of surrendering, of letting go all that I've ever learned, all the conditioning, all the brainwashing, and surrendering to what I'm shown, what I feel. And unfortunately, all this language has been hijacked by the left. So now we see, you know, trannies. Oh, shouldn't say, oh, it's all right, I'm not monetized. So now we see trannies saying, yes, but I feel like a woman. You know, it's amazing. Like the word woke, originally, that word was our word. That word was used by the people who had woke up to a government tyranny and the lie that is the media. And then suddenly it became hijacked by the left. And now they're hijacking spiritual self-work language, triggers and projections. They're using all those, but they're like every time with the left, they're completely inverting it and making it about narcissism and self. It's it's amazing. It's amazing, and that's why people get fooled so easily. Because obviously that's the latest example, but they've been doing that the whole time. You know, like we now see with the word fascist, that they're calling the ones that are wanting to shut down free speech and burn books and cancel people are the ones calling the ones that want free speech a fascist. You know, totally inverted. We live in such an inverted world. It's fascinating. I imagine I'll be titling this something around plants, medicine integration, so I better speak into that a bit more. You know, it's interesting when you first find this world and you have these peak experiences of connection and surrender, and everything makes sense. And you're in a very embodied, present place, you know, when you've just come out of an ayahuasca ceremony, for example, peyote, anything, all amazing medicines. And you then meet the world. Actually, a better example of this is when I did a vision quest. So I did a vision quest for 3 days. So that was nothing but water for 3 days, just sat in a hut. I did cheat, I went out for walks, but I didn't interact with anyone. When I came out of that vision quest, it was unbelievable. The only way I can describe it is there was a deep embodiment, but the way I described it at the time was I could think of a question and I would get a yes or a no from my stomach in the form of either an excited feeling or a sinking feeling. And that lasted for about 6 hours until I went back into the business that I owned at the time, and suddenly I was interacting with clients. Oh, it's a nice day, isn't it? Oh, what did you have for tea last night? And within 2 hours, I was just pulled back in to the mind. Because to operate in that world, running a mainstream business with mainstream plebby clients, you have to be in the mind. And again, it's all about vibration. It's all about the vibration you're around. So I went from being in a hut in nature, totally with self and God, to being in a horrible industrial unit with LED lighting and dogs barking and shitting everywhere. It was a dog crash. And, you know, brain dead clients and brain dead staff, and being the narcissist that ran the business, you know, having to go back into that role. Everything that the plant medicine had shown me I could release, but I didn't know how to. Like, how do you integrate these peak experiences when you have a normie mainstream life? But you do it very slowly, and you just learn to surrender. And in that is this process of letting go, and slowly you see, as your internal changes, your external will change to reflect that. It's just inevitable. There was one really good comment kind of related to this a couple of videos ago that said, I think she was about 60, and she used to eat loads of mushrooms. She said she used to love mushrooms, and she said, now I find it just hinders my meditation, it hinders my presence. And I think that's kind of a line that I'm on now. You know, I hadn't actually done any plant medicine for 6 months, and then a guy that I'm working with in terms of men's work online wanted an experience. You know, he just clearly would really benefit from a plant medicine experience. So I offered to facilitate that journey for him, and anyone who knows anything about plant medicine will know the facilitator needs to also consume the medicine and be in the same dimension as the client, for want of a better word, the sufferer, the person who's there for their experience. So that was actually the only reason I did it. However, I still think I'm in a place where I can benefit from it. But actually, all I get is, the comment was so right, because all I get now with these medicines is like, you're there. I mean, it's a bit exaggerated, of course stuff comes up. I remember there was a song I played that I hadn't heard. I basically shunned all spiritual music since I lost my spiritual community because of the pain of it all. And then I went into a whole projection on the spiritual community, but that's over now. Anyway, so I was playing this music because obviously it was right for him, and whoa, I heard this song that I hadn't heard since I was in what I thought was a family. You you know, where we're all striving to change the world essentially through ourselves. And now I only speak to one person from this family. So there was this like boom moment of emotion and remembering all these faces. But man, it passed within about 30 seconds. Yeah, so basically when I take medicine now, I just get a like, what do you want? You know, we've given you all, and they're just, and like a burning in my heart and an opening in my heart, and just this realization that, you know, my life is beautiful and it's time to share that beauty with others. It's time to share the gifts that I've been given with others. And that's, so yeah, so I think I'm in a similar place. I think I'm in a place where the medicine, you know, the medicine has been the tool to get me to the point where I'm sniffing flowers and I'm sitting here in presence and I'm essentially meditating. But really, I don't need the tool anymore. It served me, and it served me very, very well, and I'm just so grateful to all those plant medicines I've consumed. Many, many plant medicines. They've just been amazing. But yeah, I agree. I think there comes a time where you no longer need it, for want of a better phrase. It's integrated and it's in your life. And the only people that I see who appear to me to be on a similar level or even a higher level of enlightenment to myself, that carry on using plant medicine regularly, are those that many would call shamans. The ones that I work with don't really use that term, they use like medicine carrier or something like that. But yeah, it seems that, like I did last week, unless you go into service, there's not really much need. Service through the medicine, particularly. Obviously, there's many ways of serving. I see this as service, or a men's group as service, obviously. But you know, if you're choosing to be of service through medicine, then I think that's the reason many people continue to consume it into their older, enlightened years. But yeah, I'm just a huge advocate of it. Honestly, if you've never drank ayahuasca, you don't know who you are. Unless you've come like with such a pure soul, but in my experience, I don't really see that in many people, anyone, without doing a hell of a lot of work. I believe if you're on this plane, you have a lot of karmatic attachments. You have a lot of karma that needs to be experienced and unraveled. We call it trauma often. It seems foolish to me to come to this plane and play safe, to not do things out of fear. Because you just, well, the chances are you're just going to come back here. Like I say, I'm not certain about any of this, but that seems to be the most likely thing that's going on here from what I've experienced. And if you read scriptures, not that I do, I listen to people who do. You know, it's really interesting, isn't it, that what I'm speaking of in terms of reincarnation, for want of a better phrase, is completely standard in probably most of the world, certainly half the world, like the East. You know, if I was speaking to a Chinese child or a Thai child, you know, this wouldn't even need explaining, it wouldn't even be a debate. And of course that could be conditioning, that could be a lie. But it's really interesting how, you know, for example, like a Christian who's like, I'm a Christian and this is my belief system and I know. Well, what if you were brought up in Timbuktu? Like, do you not see that it's a result of your environment? It's part of the conditioning. And of course, they're the ones that hold the most fear. You know, you'll get many comments from Christians when you do videos like this saying, plant medicine is of the devil. You know, and basically what's happening there is they are shit scared of themselves. They are so scared of what's going to come up. They haven't done the self-work. They're living in fear and they've grabbed onto hope and external. And anything that doesn't fit in with that has to be demonic to reinforce their hope. And yeah, it's quite sad really. But it's very understandable. And it's still quite a high path relative to the consciousness of humanity. You're not a bloody atheist. If you have a fear around plant medicine, I would invite you to, you know, try and check in with where you're feeling that fear, the physical, first of all, part of you, like my gut or my spleen or whatever. But you know, then you can ask it what age it is, and you know, essentially you're going to find it's a traumatized part of your childhood. It's really scared of letting go of what it deems to be safe, even though what it deems to be safe is from a child perspective and is very unlikely, in fact I would say certainly wouldn't be, aiding you in your adult life. Then, once you've done that, I'd invite you to lean into the fear, because on the other side of any fear you have is your gold. You know, our gold, our light comes through the shadow. If you think I shine brightly, which of course I do, if you don't, then you're projecting. I do think that's true, but I'm also laughing at myself as I say it. It's because I've delved into my shadow. It's because I've done the shadow work. I've gone to the ends of the desires, of the thoughts, you know, and I've got to the dead end. You know, but like, oh, there's nothing here. But I've experienced it all now, and I've got a wisdom now, and now I can come back. And you know, your light will shine as brightly as your shadow has been experienced. It's all integration. Integration, what a fucking flouncy spiritual word. Alright, I think that's enough waffling for today. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, helping me get towards my... I've hit 3,000 hours and I need 4,000 hours to get monetized. So yeah, thank you for being part of that. If you think this might help someone, please do share it with them. And if you want to support this channel, then please do with a like and a subscribe and a comment. Greatly appreciated. I think it's really important that messages like this get out there. I think it's really important that authentic speakers are seen. Vulnerable people are platformed, because we live in a society of narcissistic masks. You know, I learnt the other day, very interesting. I learnt this from my mate Awaken Brave on this channel, that the word personality comes from the Greek word persona, which means to wear a mask. What do you think of that? Maybe we'll speak about that in the next video. I'll see you then. Big love.